welcome back to the next episode of When Life Feels Messy. This episode is really going to contain all things talking about suicide, as September is National Suicide Prevention Month. So we hope that through this video you really find the confidence and skills and information needed to be able to have a conversation with someone who might be experiencing suicidal ideation or really struggling. It can be really overwhelming and kind of daunting to think of, how do I even have a conversation with someone that I care about that might be experiencing suicidal ideation? And so we hope that you find this as a very informative way for you to feel confident and feel like I know what to say and the tools to have to make sure that this person is safe. So without further ado, let's dive on in.
So let's talk about what are the warning signs for someone that might be experiencing suicidal ideation or really struggling. So first off would be if they're actively talking about wanting to die or feeling this great guilt or shame or being a burden to others. Like that is a huge red flag to be like, okay, something might be going on here and they might be really feeling low and that suicidal ideation might be present. They also might be, express feeling that they feel empty, hopeless, trapped, or having no reason to live. They might be extremely sad. They might be showcasing more anxiousness or maybe feeling more agitated or just full on rage. They might also share that they are going through this unbearable emotional or physical pain. And some changing behavior to look at would be, are they making a plan or researching ways to die? Do you see them withdrawing from friends and isolating? Are they saying goodbye? Are they giving away important items or making a will? Are they taking dangerous risks, such as driving extremely fast? Are they displaying extreme mood swings, especially like this is something abnormal and you're not used to seeing in their behavior? Maybe they're eating or sleeping more or less, and maybe drugs and alcohol are being used more often. And we talk a lot more about warning signs in our podcast, so highly encourage you to listen to that. But this is really just a good snapshot of these are things that when you notice this in other people, of something to be aware of and be, maybe this is something I need to check on. So you might be wondering, how do I even go about starting the conversation about suicide, right? This is definitely something that's kind of sticky, right? To know what exactly do I even utilize and say to start this conversation. Well, the most important thing is to ask the person directly if they are experiencing suicidal thoughts. We don't want to beat around the bush. We want to be very direct with them and get to the point of this to assess, is something going on? Are they struggling? And do they need further help? So some examples of this that you can say is, I've noticed that you haven't been feeling yourself lately, right? Is everything okay with you? Maybe I'm worried about you. I'm wondering if we can talk about what's kind of going on, what's troubling you. You can also say, I saw your post on Facebook or Instagram. Do you want to talk about something? Is something going on? Or you seem really upset lately, and I'm worried that you might be thinking of hurting yourself or having suicidal ideation or thoughts. Can we talk about this? So being very direct is super important when starting the conversation about suicide. So there are things that you want to consider and keep in mind as you're expressing your concerns. So one of the things that we want to keep in mind is really letting the person know that you are concerned and that you care for them, right? We want to display and be a great sense of comfort for this person that we think might be struggling with experiencing suicidal ideation or pain from it. You also want to let them know that you've noticed a change in them and be specific about those changes that you've observed. We really want to avoid words that will convey judgment in any way. And we also want to be sure that we are being honest and genuine in expressing this concern. You want to make sure that you acknowledge that you understand that the person is experiencing a lot of pain at present and really validate that. And that it might be frightening to feel this way. This might be something that this person hasn't experienced before, or maybe not to this magnitude. And so really validating and acknowledging that those frightening and fearful feelings might be present. Be sure to show respect and be as understanding as possible about the situation. You want to make sure that you are maintaining eye contact and open body language. This is super important to conveying that you are listening, you care, and it's not just something where you're distracted and paying attention to other things, but you are there present in the moment with them. When you are discussing suicide with someone, ensure that you're listening carefully to what they are saying to you. You want to utilize active listening. Avoid minimizing or dismissing their problems. Ensure that the person knows that you are taking them and their concerns and struggles seriously. You also want to avoid using statements such as, "You don't know how lucky you are," or "You shouldn't feel like that." This really conveys judgy feelings and really invalidates that the person might be feeling and going through. Remind the person that although they may be having thoughts of suicide, they can choose not to act on them. You want to offer realistic hope. It is possible for situations to improve or change for the better. Make sure that you provide reassurances that they're not alone. You are there for them. You are present in the moment, and you will stay with them as long as needed to make sure that they are safe. And you can use statements such as, "I may not be able to understand exactly how you feel, but I care about you and I want to help." If the person is feeling like they are really struggling with suicidal ideation, maybe they're thinking about a plan, have intent, the next step is to support them to get professional help. And try to stay calm during the conversation. You might experience really strong feelings. Maybe this is triggering for your own mental health, or really just something that you've never had a conversation with someone about before. But most importantly, try to stay calm and not show that you are feeling, overwhelmed or struggling with this, because that will only add to the feelings that this person might be experiencing, such as feeling like they are a burden or they can't share their deep struggles and pain with others because it will affect others. So very important to make sure that your feelings and emotions are in check during this conversation. One of the really important aspects of talking and communicating with someone that might be experiencing suicidal ideation or struggling is that you practice active listening. And so what active listening really means and looks like is that you are showcasing to the person that is communicating with you that you are engaged in what they are saying. You are actively listening to the words and feelings that they are putting behind this communication. You're not distracted. You are fully concentrated in understanding. And so some elements of this would be to acknowledge the speaker, right? So this can be as simple as giving nonverbal, such as head nodding, or giving ahas as they are remarking on things. By acknowledging the person, you're letting them know that you are actively listening to what they have to say. And this is also a way to remind yourself to pay attention to what is being said to you and really process the words that are being communicated to you. The other element is responding verbally. So this would be asking questions and making statements that would help clarify what the speaker is saying, right? So kind of reverberating back to the speaker what they have said to you. This is a really great way to show the speaker that you're listening attentively and that you're here to help them and are truly concerned. And be sure to let the speaker finish talking. Don't jump in and interrupt them and just immediately start responding or asking questions, but make sure they're finished talking before you respond. Summarize what you're hearing. Reflect on what the listener is saying is also a really positive verbal active listening technique. So by repeating and paraphrasing or even summarizing what the person has said really shows that you are putting in the effort to better understand them. So you can use phrases like, "What I'm hearing is ... or "Sounds like you're saying ... These tactics can also allow the speaker to really hear what they are saying, which may help them find positive reinforcement, right? There's power in hearing what you've said be said back to you by another voice in person. You want to also look the part, so keep eye contact, maintain a good posture, and stay focused. These are really key components of active listening and interpersonal communication. If you're distracted and showing this unfocused kind of stance. This is really going to make the speaker and person talking to you feel that you aren't paying attention, right? And this can really add to a lot of negative things that they're already thinking about and going on in their head. And when you actively listen to someone, you are letting them know that you care about them. What they're saying is important to you, and this can indicate that you're concerned for their health and safety, which is the whole goal with having these conversations about suicide and practicing active listening. So let's talk about the do's and don'ts of having a conversation with someone about suicide. So some of the do's will be centered around being direct. Talk openly and matter-of-factly about suicide. We mentioned earlier, we're not trying to beat around the bush. We want to get straight to the point and be direct about asking questions surrounding, is this person struggling with suicidal ideation? We want to be willing to listen. And that means that if we are eliciting this conversation to be had and asking this person to be honest about if they're struggling, then we have to be willing to listen to them and allow them to express those feelings that are probably going to be really hard to hear. And we have to be accepting of those feelings. And this is a time that we're going to be non-judgmental. We're not going to debate around whether suicide is right or wrong or whether feelings are good or bad. We're not going to lecture on the value of life. But we are going to offer hope that alternatives are available. We're going to take action. We're going to remove means like weapons and pills to keep this person safe. We're also going to get help from people or agencies specializing in crisis intervention and suicide prevention. And we are going to get involved. We're going to become available to this person. We're going to show interest and support. But some of the things that we are not going to do is we're not going to act shocked. We're not going to display this emotion of we weren't expecting this, that this is a shock to us or is negatively affecting us, because this is going to put distance between you and this person, and they're probably not going to feel comfortable to continue having this conversation or open up to you in the future. We're also not going to allow ourselves to be sworn to secrecy to keep this, but we're going to seek support, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit later. Some things that aren't going to be helpful or really unhelpful responses would be trying to find a solution to their problems. They're wanting someone and needing someone to just listen without trying to solve the problem. Telling them things like cheer up, pull themselves together, man up, or snap out of it are not helpful and will not make this person feel that they are being heard or listened to. We're not going to change the subject. We are going to stay on this conversation and topic and allow this person to express the feelings, thoughts, whatever they need to be said about this, and not make it seem like this is uncomfortable for us and we would rather be talking about something else. We're not going to give them advice. We're not going to ask questions unrelated to how they're feeling to distract them. We're not going to tell them that they have no reason to feel like this, or that they shouldn't feel like this, or that they'll feel better soon. We're not going to downplay the seriousness of how they're feeling. We're not going to compare the situation to someone who seems worse, or tell them that we know how they're feeling. We're not going to compare their feelings to our own personal experiences, or tell them that they should be grateful for having a good life, or that they're just being silly. These responses are really unlikely to be helpful because they may make someone feel small or insignificant, stupid for feeling the way that they do, rejected, unheard, alone, like no one understands, guilty, patronized, criticized, analyzed. And these are all things that they're probably already struggling with, and is only going to make the suicidal ideation worse, and will also make them feel like you were not a good support system. And maybe you were the only one that they felt that they had, and now they've kind of lost that. So you may be asking yourself, when should I take it seriously? If someone brings forth to me that they are feeling like they're struggling with suicidal ideation, or have a previous attempts, or seriously thinking about it and have an intent and plan, when should I take it seriously? And the answer is always, always, and always. Always take feelings of suicide seriously, even if the person is trying to laugh it off or cover it up, right? Or be like, oh, I'm just kidding, I wouldn't. Never assume that the person won't attempt to take their own life. So you always need to take any kind of remark seriously. So how do we go about keeping people safe, right? When they've disclosed that they might be really struggling with thoughts of suicide, might have an intent plan. The big thing is to not leave them on their own, right? So whether it's you or another person in their support system, we want to make sure that they're not alone with their thoughts, right? We want to make sure that we're talking to them. We're giving them the space to have these conversations and express their feelings and thoughts and be open about it. We want to make sure that we are seeking professional help for them. You are not expected to be a professional that knows how to handle someone's suicidal ideation or how to help them kind of get out of this place. And so for that, making the promise that you are going to seek professional help. Removing items that can end their life, such as sharp objects, cleaning products, drug medications, belts, cords, rope, etc. We want to remove all the lethal means out of their home and the place that they're residing, so that this just eliminates, the possibility that they would carry out a plan. So we talked about this a little bit ago, but should you ever keep suicide plans to yourself, even if the person asks you to, right? If the person is revealing that they are thinking of suicide and have a plan, or the suicidal ideation, even if it's, passive or intrusive, it is critical that we seek professional help as soon as possible, right? Don't keep or agree to secrets that could result in a person attempting suicide. You're not an expert in the mental health field, nor are you expected to be, or an expert on suicide prevention. So you should not be the one shouldering the burden alone and keeping this secret. So make sure you're doing your part, and when someone discloses this, that you are seeking professional help to help this person. So you might say, well, what if the person doesn't want to talk to a professional? Well, if the person doesn't want to talk to a professional and their immediate risk is lower, right? You can work with them to identify other supports, such as talking with parents and family and friends, teachers, colleagues. Maybe there are support groups in the area, because it's really important for them to build their support around themselves. You can also call a mental health service or helpline for support, such as the National Suicide Prevention Line, 988. Help them create a safety plan. What is a safety plan? It really is a plan in place that the person creates that's a promise that they're not going to do anything to try to harm themselves or end their life, such as what are the things that I can utilize as strategies to help me when I'm feeling like the suicidal ideation is high, or I'm thinking about suicide, right? Who are those people that are my support system? And if they don't agree to seek professional help and the immediate risk is high, you're going to need to contact emergency services on the behalf of them, regardless of their wishes, because their safety and their health and life is on the line. A really easy way to kind of just remember what the process is for having a conversation with someone that is experiencing suicidal ideation or struggling is the 5 steps action plan created by the National Institute of Mental Health. And this includes 5 different areas, such as ask, be there, keep them safe, help them connect, and follow up. So ask, like we were talking about, communicating that you're open to speaking about suicide in a non-judgmental and supportive way. Opening the door for effective dialogue about their emotional pain. And this allows everyone involved to see the next steps that need to be taken. The next one is being there. This can mean being physically present for someone, speaking with them on the phone when you can, or any other way that really shows support for the person at risk. And an important aspect of this step is to make sure that you're following through with the ways in which you say you're going to be able to support the person. So don't commit to anything that you're not willing or able to accomplish. The 3rd step is keeping them safe. It's important to find out a few things to establish immediate safety. Has this person already done anything to try and end their life before talking with you? Does the person experiencing thoughts of suicide know how they're going to kill themselves? Do they have a specific, detailed plan? And what's the timing for their plan? What sort of access do they have to this plan method? Knowing the answers to each of these questions can tell us a lot about the imminence and severity of danger that person is in. The 4th step is help them connect. So helping someone with thoughts of suicide connect with ongoing supports can really help them establish a safety net for those moments that they find themselves in a crisis. So explore some of the possible supports with them. Are they currently seeing a mental health professional? Have they in the past? And is this an option for them currently? Or are there other mental health resources in the community that can effectively help them? And lastly, the 5th step would be follow up. So make sure to follow up with them to see how they're doing. Leave a message, send a text, or give them a call. The follow-up step is really the great time to check in with them to see, is there more that you're capable of helping with, or if there are things that you said you would do and haven't yet had the chance to do. And lastly, we wanted to share the various resources and helplines that are available to you, even if you are struggling with suicide or suicidal ideation, or you know someone in need to offer some assistance. The first one, it would be the TW CAPS crisis line, which you can reach at 940-898-4357. The second one would be the National Suicide Prevention Line, which you can access very easily at their 3-digit phone number, 988. We will put various resources in the description of this video for you to access, but we highly encourage that you save at least one of these numbers to access in the case that you need it or someone that you know needs it. Of course, in an emergency, if someone is in immediate danger, please call 911 or take them to the nearest emergency room. Thank you so much for watching this video on how to have a conversation with someone who might be struggling and experiencing suicidal ideation. We hope that you found this video informative and helpful for you, and that you feel more confident and able to help someone who is struggling. If you still need more information or resources, please do not hesitate to reach out to your TW CAPS team or utilize any of the resources that we've put in the description of this video to talk to someone who is an expert on this.